Hello, everyone. My name is Karemm Jones. I'm one of those who have been robbed of history, and I didn't want to miss my chance to speak. I just heard my brother Cornel West say that there's a boot that's stepping on the face of democracy. This boot has been felt by a lot of us and for a long time. I'm a young black man, and I relate to the pressure that we feel in life. Life comes down to a lot of pressure, and I feel that revolution comes down to pressure as well. What is this pressure? Well, it's pressure of everyday life, pressure of bills, pressure of how we look in the eyes of others, pressure of the demands that others put on us. There's pressure all around in our lives, pressure to feed our kids, pressure to respect our elders, pressure to go to school and to be successful, pressure to find love, pressure to be able to endure the loss of love. Life is filled with pressure. I understand, and I'm right there with all of those who are wailing. I'm right there with all of those who are pounding the ground. I'm right there with the mothers and the brothers. The mother of George Floyd, the brother of George Floyd, the family, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, the family, Breonna's family, Breonna's mother, mothers and fathers of black children themselves, me and you out there who have to worry about how you walk through the streets, who have to worry about whether you're welcomed. A lot of it is not feeling welcomed, which has led to the ghastliness of where we are right now. And I know that I feel this too. I know that I have felt, again, that pressure, the pressure on my shoulders, the pressure in my head and heart that relates to not feeling welcomed. Well, that pressure has blown up. And now we see thousands upon thousands, not only here in the United States, but around the world, releasing that pressure and finding ways to release it. There was a young woman my sister shared with me who said that we've done it, that this is the revolution, this is the movement. She's right, but at the same time we have to be careful, and we have to remember that one of the hardest things about a revolution is how softly we have to step in them. Sometimes the smallest steps and the smallest gestures and actions make the biggest outcome and make the biggest impact. And we have to remember that after we march in the streets, we go back to our children, to our friends. We have to relate to them. We put pressure on them. We feel the pressure ourselves, and we continue living that out. So, along with peaceful protests, there's peaceful civil disobedience that rings outward into our everyday lives. And just as we put pressure on our family members and on our friends to speak the truth and to demand justice, I think that it is incumbent upon us to also demand that justice and to put that pressure on local and corporate businesses, to make that pressure felt everywhere, in our personal lives and as it rings outward. We are in these subtle agreements with those we give our dollars to, and we have to let them know that as well as being in accord with what comes out of our pocketbook, we have to be in accord with our hearts. And we have to feel the hearts of those who ask for our finances, who ask for our time, who ask for us to spend an hour with them being entertained, that there's an accord there and that we share this demand for justice. Otherwise, there is more than the fear, more than the threat, but the likelihood that this justice will be buried again in a host of distractions. Again, I understand going out, and I feel it's important to shout and to scream. We're telling stories now. We're telling George's story, Brianna and Ahmad's story, the stories of the countless black men and women and children who have been tortured throughout the history of the United States. We're telling that story, and we're telling the story of human beings who are voiceless. So we should reach out in that way, but let it become more subtle and creative as well. We will reach out in the streets, and then we will reach out through our poetry, through our new ways of dancing, through our songs, through our paintings, through our sculptures, through our buildings, through how we gather with friends, through what it is we laugh at, through what it is we find entertaining. That's what I find is important. That this movement continue, but that it continue to become creative and subtle and cunning, and that we don't give up once things calm down in the streets. Again, one of the hardest parts of any revolution is how small those gestures are that make the biggest impact. And it's time for us to find those gestures. As far as the heart, and what people are calling racism, what people are calling systemic racism, what people are calling fucking racism, as far as those things go, we have to have a type of faith, because we can't just change them overnight, and we can't make sure that they're changed in 50 or 100 or 200 years. We're going to have to live with them, and we're going to have to live with those who oppress us and those who hate us, the way that we have lived with them so far. We live with a type of faith in the impossible. And some of the greatest possibilities that have come in life have been joined or wedded to that faith. And speaking of that faith, I'm only going to leave with a song, and I thank all of those whose hearts are with me. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Thank you, and love hard.